Today I want to look at something a little different. This tablet here was sent over from Blackview, and the reason I wanted to check this out was because it was under $150. I think tablets are kind of a dying market, but that's a shame because they're still really nice devices. Does Blackview make a good tablet? And is a sub $150 tablet even worth buying? Well, let's open this and take a closer look. So as mentioned, this was sent over from Blackview. As with all my reviews, the company is not seeing this review beforehand. They have no input in what I say, and they're not paying me for this review. All opinions are my own, and of course, I'm going to give you guys my honest thoughts to what I think about it. Let's open this up and take a closer look. So what exactly is the Tab 90 Wi-Fi? Well, let's take a closer look at the specs. Moving over to Blackview's website, Blackview is known for making good budget phones. This tablet here, as mentioned, is under $150. You do really get a lot going for it with that price point. It does have a very sleek design, and we also get a really good battery. However, two things that I really wish this thing had was 1080p on the display. This is only a 720p display, and it's almost 11 inches, so I really hope the screen is sharp enough. The charging is also quite slow, only at 10 watts, and that will take upwards of just over 3.5 hours to fully charge it. This also comes with an older processor. This comes with the Unisoc T606. I generally look at the Antutu benchmark, and anywhere from 200 to 300,000 is just going to be pretty decent for media consumption like gaming and some mid-tier emulation. Not bad, but it is definitely feeling its age. I still think we can do a lot with this processor, and we'll take a closer look. This also only comes with 4 GB of RAM, but it does have a swap file that will let it go up to 12 GB. This is also running Android 14, so that's pretty good to see that it's been updated. I also don't know if this is metal, as I couldn't find anything on this page that says so. This has Widevine Level 1 support, so you should be able to get HD movies on Netflix, HBO, Prime Video, and YouTube. Down here it says it supports AC Wi-Fi. This is currently on sale for $120 US, so it's still really cheap. I'm actually shocked to see how cheap this is. Right, well, let's open it up, see what it comes with. So in the box, it looks like there is a small box in the corner here. I'm guessing this has the charger in it. Let's take a peek. Yep, so that has that charger. Unfortunately, I can't use this one as I'm in Canada. This comes with a 5-volt, 2-amp, 10-watt charger. In the other box, we get a USB cable. This USB cable is USB-A to USB-C. Nothing special here, just your regular USB cable. And of course, we have the tablet itself. This does feel a lot lighter than I thought it was gonna, but it does feel like pretty decent quality. So let's open this up and take a closer look. I'm gonna put the box behind it just so it doesn't get scratched on my desk. If I peel that off, it does look like there's another screen protector behind it. So that's always nice. On the left side, we have the power button, the volume up and down switch. There's also one of the speakers. On the right side, we have the SD card slot, and of course the USB-C port. We also have one of the other speakers. On the top, I don't see anything, but there is a microphone centered in the middle, and there's absolutely nothing on the bottom of the tablet. The back of the tablet looks really good, and I actually really like this design. It's kind of a nostalgic old phone look to it, but it does look pretty high quality. This unfortunately is plastic, and I think it would have felt a lot better if this was metal. It's actually a pretty decent plastic though, and I don't see this as a bad thing. This is definitely one of the ways that they kept the cost on this down. There's 2 cameras here at the top, and of course the model sticker at the bottom, with a very little logo in the center. It actually feels really nice in the hand. I think this would be a really good tablet for reading or media consumption. Put into perspective about how much this weighs, my phone of choice that I'm currently using is the Poco F6. The Poco F6 is 221.6 grams. If we compare this to my X86 handheld of choice, the ROG Ally X, that comes in at 697.2 grams. The tablet itself comes in ever so slightly lighter than the ROG Ally X at 547.2 grams. Not a bad weight, and I don't think anybody's going to be bothered by that. Let's turn on the tablet next and check out what it looks like. One thing I'm noticing on camera is that there's lines kind of going down, but you're not seeing this in person. That's only the way my camera's picking it up. There's a small amount of vignetting around the corners and the sides, but I don't really find this bothersome, and I think most people will be okay with it. There's also a very small amount of light bleed at the top left corner, but you can barely see this in person, and I don't even think it's showing up on camera. Just something to take note of. This is pretty common for IPS screens to have this sort of issue though. I've seen devices that were way worse than this. Even one of the handhelds that I reviewed, the 40XXH, had this sort of issue, and it was way more visible on that. So let's go through the setup process and see what this is like. So I just wanted to talk about this because I've never seen a screen do it before, but just look how this screen is recording on my camera. It looks so odd. I'm going to try my best to mitigate this, but I'm not sure why this is being picked up in the camera like this. Again, you can't see this in person, it's only the way my camera is picking it up. So I've just finished the setup process. I'm actually more impressed with it than I thought. The screen doesn't look too bad, at least with this default wallpaper here. I did go ahead and set this to full brightness as well. Now, one thing I'm noticing right away is the screen is decently responsive, especially for a 60Hz panel. I'm used to 120 Hz on all my devices. I actually thought this was going to bother me a lot more. It doesn't look like there's a lot of bloat on this either. There's a few. I'm not sure what cold room is, but let's just go ahead and uninstall that. Okay, so you can't uninstall everything, it looks like. Is there any other bloat on here? You could debate if this is bloat or not, but I don't really want WPS Office on here, and I can uninstall that. I'm going to go through the settings menu first, just to see if there's anything that needs to be adjusted. So we obviously have the Wi-Fi on the top, and then there's Bluetooth. We have other wireless connections. I'm not sure what this is, but let's take a closer look. We can do screencasting, which is kind of interesting. I guess that's been built into Android for a while. I like to shut off the print service, so I'm going to go ahead and shut that off. You can change DNS settings, but I don't think there's anything else that I need to change in here. Under the display mode, I'm going to turn on the dark mode. And it looks like there's 3 different levels of dark mode. So gentle is going to have kind of like a soft gray. And then enhanced, it's just going to be pure black. So I'm just going to leave it on enhance. We got the wallpaper settings here. We can change some of the system colors if we want. I'm going to shut off a couple of these sound options. Yeah, all in all, it's not as bad as I thought. Looks like there's a spelling mistake under the auxiliary function. Under the battery mode, there is a performance mode. I'm not going to turn this on. I just like to use the device with its default settings. There's also a battery saver option. That's off by default. There's also a super power saving mode. Charging protection, which basically stops it from charging when it hits a certain point. I like to turn on the battery percentage so I can see what the battery's at right in the top bar here. So under the RAM and storage settings, this is kind of interesting, but it does show the swap file as there. And we have that 4 GB of internal memory with the 2 GB swap file. It doesn't look like you can change this anywhere here, but maybe there's a different place to change that later. There's a couple accessibility, well-being, passwords, your Google account settings. There's also a PC mode, so you can use this kind of as a desktop with a start menu and then like a home screen. There's a few interesting options under the system settings. There's one called RAM Fast Startup Acceleration, which is apparently supposed to improve the efficiency of the memory utilization according to your usage habits. Probably just going to leave that off, but that's kind of interesting to see. And then of course we have the About tablet. So it shows us the model, how much storage I've used, the processor, the available memory, and the swap file. We have the display size with the resolution. So if you go to the About tablet and you tap on the RAM, you can adjust the swap file here. So if you don't want to do that and you want to shut off the swap file, you can just uncheck this and it'll only use the internal memory. The storage is obviously not going to be as fast as the RAM itself, so this is a good way to speed up your device. However, if you are filling up that memory, quite often you do want to keep this swap file enabled. It's going to move this up gradually, moving it along the bar. I'm just going to have this set to about 2 GB. I don't personally see a need for any more than 6 gigs of RAM and Android, and with this hardware, we probably don't even need more than 4. The default launcher is not bad. It's very stock Android. There's a lot of stuff here on the main screen, so I'm just going to go ahead and tidy this up quick. One thing I also want to talk about is this screen protector is plastic, and I've only touched this with my fingers, but you can already see some pretty bad scratching on here. This is mostly due to the fact that this screen protector is plastic, not glass, and those are going to show a lot more on plastic. It would have been really nice if they had a tempered screen protector included in the box. You won't really see this though when the screen is on. The Wi-Fi speed on this device in particular seems to max out at around 433 megabits per second. I'll be honest with you guys, I am noticing quite a little bit of lag moving around from things and just scrolling up and down. When you're in the settings menu or the UI in general, it's not actually that bad. It's just a problem when you're actually scrolling through certain factors or when you're pulling down menus, it kind of lags. I might actually just end up pulling off the screen protector because now there's even more scratches just going across the screen. This device in particular definitely needs a tempered screen protector, and I'm really tempted just to pull it off. I'm gonna pull this off. That already looks a lot better, and even the screen colors look better too without that plastic on there. Now that I've got it all set up and everything's installed, I'm gonna do a quick boot test just to see how fast the thing starts up and shuts down. So I'm gonna go ahead and shut that down. That shut off pretty quick, so let's go ahead and try turning this on quick. Maybe I didn't hold it down long enough. There we go. That's not bad. There's a lot of handhelds in the arena that start up pretty similar speed. Let's do a couple quick benchmarks on the RAM and internal storage. The RAM's a little slower at only 3200 megabytes per second. Let's try that internal storage next. This is definitely UFS storage. The read speeds are sitting at 713 megabytes per second and the writes are at 228 megabytes per second. Not bad and pretty impressive for a budget device actually. The speakers on this are actually nothing short of incredible for a budget device. Let me show you what they sound like. Even compared to something like my Poco F6 or the Odin 2, the speakers on this definitely give those two devices a good run for their money. Now let's talk about something that I find make or break on a lot of handhelds in general or any device with a screen, and that's the screen itself. If the screen on a device sucks, it's going to make using the device a complete pain to use. The screen on this is actually somewhat decent. This tablet doesn't support HDR, but it can go up to 1080p, which is not bad. As far as the screen goes, it's okay. There's nothing to write home about with this screen. It's usable and it's not too bad. The colors are also decently vibrant. The black levels are also really good too. All in all, I'd give the screen maybe about a 5 or 6 out of 10. I think my biggest gripe with this screen is that it's only 720p. If this was 1080, I think it would be a lot better suited for this device. I am actually kind of shocked how good the colors look on here though. I thought they'd be a lot worse. So the resolution is definitely this screen's biggest drawback. The one other issue I find with this screen is the color temp. You're only really going to notice this on a solid white screen, and a lot of the whites that you're seeing on videos are usually looking pretty good anyways. When you get solid white colors, you are going to notice that it's leaning a little bit more towards the blue. Without professional tools though, I have no way to measure that. This definitely doesn't look like a true white though, and it's leaning more towards the cooler side. I prefer a warmer screen, somewhere around 5200 to 6500 Kelvin. This screen, however, leans more towards that 7000 Kelvin. It's a lot more blue than you would expect, as opposed to a warmer screen. This is really going to come down to personal preference, and I don't think it's going to bother everybody, but that is something also to take note of. This is a true 60Hz screen, so you're not going to get any flickering that you would see on these cheaper 59Hz, or if there's an issue with the firmware, this is coming in directly at 60Hz. This is really good to see. I've seen certain handhelds have this issue. Watching this UFO test, occasionally I will get a stutter warning, so I'm not really sure what that's about. It could just be from using Firefox. This only happens maybe once every 2 to 3 minutes though, so it's not something that you're regularly going to see. The minimum brightness of the screen is also pretty decent, so if you wanted to read at night, I think this would be a good screen for that. It does get pretty bright, and even under these bright studio lights, you can still see everything that you need to. I don't think this would be usable outside in the sun, but inside, you're going to have no issues. I'm also wondering if the way this screen is recording and just how the colors and sharpness look in general are maybe due to the pixel format of the screen. According to this, it's a 32-bit panel, but it does use a pixel format of RGBA. I've never seen that before. I don't really know how common that layout is, but that's just kind of interesting. Again, for consistency's sake, just because I've seen this on a few TVs where dead pixels will be persistent on other colors. Red looks okay to me, and I don't see any dead pixels. Green looks okay. Blue looks fine, but then again, I am seeing a little bit of that light bleed in the top left corner. White looks fine, and I'm still not seeing any dead pixels. Once we get into the grays, you're going to be able to notice the uniformity. I would give this screen probably a 6 out of 10 for uniformity. It's decent, but you are going to notice some over here on the top. Then again, just the way my camera's recording this, it's really hard to show. Hopefully you can see that. Most IPS screens are not going to be perfect anyways, and the only screens that are going to be something like an AMOLED or OLED. There's a little bit of banding at about 75% of the way up. Just make sure to pause if you're curious about this, but you're only going to really see this on videos that have solid background. However, when you get this down to about this level of gray, you just don't see any. So it's mostly on these lighter grays that you're going to see that, but if it gets too light, that kind of fades into the background. All in all, not bad uniformity. I've definitely seen better, but I've also seen way worse. As far as your video playback with Prime Video or YouTube, you're going to get up to 1080p as we saw. I think this will be a pretty good device for watching videos on. Gaming is pretty decent on here. Your Android games are going to run just about as you expect. Stuff like Skul the Hero Slayer works perfectly fine on here. You'd probably want a controller though, and I kind of find this awkward to play with screen controls. But yeah, the performance is decent. It's not bad. Just make sure to close your background processes occasionally, as this thing does not have a lot of RAM and you're going to want all your resources for gaming. Keep your expectations in check, as this is a budget tablet, but it does play games pretty decently. I did also try pairing a controller to it. I have this small SN30 Pro that I got a while back, and the controls seem to work perfect with it. Titan Quest is definitely one of my favorite Android games, and it works pretty decent on here. I'm still not sure why you guys are getting that banding, it just looks so weird. So I'm going to try setting the graphic options to medium just for now. Okay, so I have to set the shadow quality to lows because there's only low or high, but I'm going to leave the resolution scale set to high so it scales to the screen's proper resolution. The frame rate limiter I'm going to leave off. We're going to leave the FPS on so we can see what we're looking at here. This is kind of interesting because I thought this game was a 60 FPS game. It does seem to stutter occasionally, but for the most part, this is a pretty solid 30 FPS. Oh, so it does go up to 60. So I think just because this hardware is a little older, it is trying to keep it closer to that 30 locked mark. This game does a good job of scaling as needed. It does go down to about 20, 26, 29. I don't think you'd want to play this with these graphic options set this high, so let's just turn these down ever so slightly. Let's turn down the detail level to low, resolution scale set to medium. Let's try that. No, that feels about the same. I don't know if this is really going to do anything or not. It might also be because the texture is using a lot. Let's just set everything to low for now. Yeah, low is also not really getting much better. Maybe about 5 to 10 FPS better on average, but it's not really enough to notice. I still think this game is very playable on this device though, and if you wanted to get some good action RPG in, you could play some Titan Quest on here and you'd probably have a lot of fun. The controller also seems to be really responsive on here. As soon as I move it, it instantly reacts. I'm not noticing much input latency at all, even with this controller being Bluetooth. It's pretty decent. I actually kind of like this tablet for gaming. I didn't expect to, but it's pretty decent. Now that we've tried a mid-tier game, let's jump it up to a fully AAA title for Android, which is Wreckfest. I can't believe how good this game is on Android. The fact that they got this on Android is a miracle. I'm gonna have to wait a second for this to download, but once this is done, let's check it out. Alright, so I got Wreckfest installed, let's give it a try. It doesn't look like the controller is working. No, the controller is working. Wow, there's some input lag on this. Look at that. As soon as I press that, it's like 2 to 3 seconds before it actually moves. So just because I kind of think I know where this device is going to go, I'm going to shut all these options off to low for a game like this. I'm going to set the dynamic resolution to performance. The FPS is going to be set to 30. Texture quality is also going to be set to low. So let's just try it and see what it looks like. It's also worth noting that the input latency is much better now. I think it was just lagging before. Look at the car, my goodness. Before we start that though, I'm going to see if I can get it FPS. Okay, never mind, we don't need to. Yeah, this is not a processor that you want to use for stuff like this. Ooh, look at the FPS. Okay, I don't even need an FPS counter to tell you guys that this is just not playable. I would say this is somewhere between 5, maybe? This is probably more of a slideshow than a video game at this point. Take my advice on this one, don't buy this for AAA games. One of the last things that I think this device in particular is going to be really good for, aside from media consumption, like games, you're also going to be able to do a decent amount of emulation on here. Just don't expect anything better than Dreamcast, PSP, maybe a little bit of 3DS. I don't think this is going to be something you want to pick up for GameCube. The other thing that this device is going to be really good for in particular is just with like graphic novels or reading. I think this is a really good device for something like that. The quality of the print looks really good, but then again, as mentioned, this does not look like a true white. So this is more blue, at least to me. If you look a little closer, you can definitely see that. This is way more blue than true white. I thought 720p was going to be really bad for reading, but the quality is actually pretty decent. The text is really sharp, and all in all, yeah, this just doesn't look too bad. This will be a really nice device if you want something for manga or if you want something for reading. Okay, so I have definitely noticed some heat from this while playing. Not a bad amount, and I still think it's decent. Most of this side over here is pretty cool. I'm finding most of the heat centered around this top corner. Even after playing some pretty heavily demanding games, we're looking at around 32 degrees Celsius. For my American viewers, this is around 90 degrees Fahrenheit. So we're not even scratching the 100-degree mark. This is actually really good. I think this is largely due to the back being plastic, but 31 to 32 degrees ain't bad at all. Let's go ahead and check the charging on this. According to this, it won't go over 10 watts with quick charging. So the interesting thing is, it does support USB-C to C. Let's take a closer look at how fast this is charging. So we're getting around 5 volt charging, 2 amps, at about 9 watts. It's pretty standard, and it does seem accurate to what they were stating. But who would I recommend this tablet to? Well, if you don't have a lot of money and you still want a tablet, but you want something more towards media consumption, or if you want something towards reading or manga, I think this is a really good tablet for that. And if you wanted to play some light emulation on there as well, you're definitely going to be able to. I wouldn't say this is a tablet specifically for gaming, but you can play a lot on here. My biggest disappointments on this device in particular are the screen resolution. I really wish it was 1080p. I also am kind of disappointed about the white balance on the screen, as that white doesn't look white to me. It looks more like a blue. I don't necessarily think this is bad per se, and I'm more picky than the average person when it comes to panels. If you want something that has a true white screen, I would look at probably something from Xiaomi. Their Mi Pads are excellent value, but they're also more expensive. The Tab 90 does offer pretty decent performance for your dollar. I just wish this was using something like a Snapdragon 660 at the very base minimum. Snapdragon 700 would have been even nicer, but then again, the price on this just would have gone up. This is honestly a pretty interesting tablet, and it's not bad. So if you're after a decent budget tablet, it's not a bad way to go, especially if you find it on sale or if you get a good coupon on it. Just remember, this is not a flagship tablet, so keep your expectations in check. You can also swap the default launcher on this, and I found the performance looking a lot smoother. What do you think about the Blackview Tab 90 Wi-Fi? Is it good enough, or you're looking for something better in a tablet? Have you tried the Blackview Tab 90 or anything from Blackview? This is the first product I've tried from them, so it's been pretty interesting to check out. If you have any questions regarding the Tab 90, make sure to ask in the comments below. I'll leave a pinned comment down below if anything I find on this changes, so make sure to check there for the most up-to-date information. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future videos, and as always, thanks for watching.